Hi. All right. Cool. It's Sunday, November 20th, 2022. Um I'm just going to keep on rambling till I get kicked off of YouTube. I titled today Lunar Economics, Luxury Services, and Laugh Therapy. I should have ordered that differently because I think laugh therapy, that's number one. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep it somewhat positive and like poke at the absurd. And laugh through the tears and yeah, appreciate what I've got because it's good. But yeah, I do see some issues on the horizon. And so I'm not going to try and dwell on them. I don't want to talk about the normal news. I want to talk about the things that are really on the fringes. So yeah, I have some different thoughts about a lot of different things, but today I just wanted to make some comments about the recent Artemis mission, and I watched the launch just a few days ago, and I watched the coverage from NASA, and I thought that was really telling just of kind of the current narrative going on. So I thought that was interesting because it was really all about like women, diversity, and that's cool and everything like that. It's just that's the current thing. So I just found that to be interesting. And there was a woman launch director, and yeah, I'm sure she did a great job. But yeah, that darn launch, it was delayed a few times. They did have a leak that they had to repair that delayed the launch a little bit, but it got fixed. And then there was another slight issue. I think it was a bad switch, and so that delayed them just a little bit. But it just brought me back to like working in broadcasting, and if the engineers are running around, don't bother them with your stupid little questions, because they're running around trying to get the show to start on time. And so I've always been kind of a space astronaut nerd. Hey CJ, glad you're here. I grew up in Orlando and got to watch some of the launches from about 30 minutes from Cape Canaveral, where we lived, so we could see the space shuttle take off once it got over the tree line from our house. And I also got to see a launch at night from right across the waterway, and so it was exciting for me to get to see the takeoff the other night. But the coverage, oh my gosh, the coverage was bad. I'm doing a stream. Will you lock the door? Thanks. Oh wow. CJ, that's crazy. We moved back to Utah in 1998, actually. Um, yeah, I think it's worth checking out. I mean, sure, okay, there's a lot of criticisms about NASA, right? And we could go into that. I'm not going to go into all of that crap, but I think it's fascinating, and I think, yeah, if anything, it's just interesting to see feats of human engineering, but God, I'm trying to wrap my head around how to talk about this, because what I found to be really interesting is they just come out and say, like, um, that the plan is to have the moon open for business, basically. So the Artemis 1, basically the whole plan was to launch currently the biggest rocket in the world with the Orion attached, and they're testing to see that, yeah, the rocket could launch it. It did. Orion's gonna do an orbit for a little while around the moon, take some pictures. There's some dummies. There's some space dummies, test dummies inside the Orion capsule. And so if it were a manned mission, that's where the astronauts would be. I think that there's 2 of them that have a ton of sensors inside of them. One, she's wearing the spacesuit. The other one isn't. So they're like cross-testing the radiation exposure and everything like that. So it's interesting. I'll wait to hear what they report about. Of course, there's so much that they don't report on. But I did find it interesting that the Orion, it's not landing on the moon. It's just gonna do a little orbit and then come back. I believe it's scheduled to come back around like December 11th. Now, also coming up in the lunar economic space is there's actually 3 different things scheduled, and I think they're all vying for the first private lunar landing. Okay, so there's the iSpace, which is a Japanese company, and the Hakuto lunar landing, the Hakuto R. And Hakuto means white rabbit, which I found really fascinating because Alison McDowell has been talking about the Alice, and she just did a blog about that, and a reading of a blog that she wrote about Alice. So I thought that was interesting. And then the NASA's Nova C lunar lander and Astrobotics out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they have the Peregrine lunar lander. And that one was interesting because it includes a payload. It's payloads from a bunch of different places, private entities, and from NASA. Is a rover from Carnegie Mellon University. But holy crap, when I was doing just a little bit of research on this, just because I didn't want to dig too much into the details, but I wanted to get a good broad view of like, okay, what's going on? Because it's not just about humans touching down on the ground. These lunar landings, there's, if not, they're gonna like say, hey, you know, we're in charge because we landed here. I think they are going to try and be collaborative in these more deep space ventures, but it is going to be competitive in the sense of like national pride. And although I understand there's people that talk about like the globalists and everything like that, I think there's still many, many steps that they're trying to get done before it's like a true globalist, you know, one world kind of government. Because I just see there is too much of this nationalist pettiness that's going on. So it's like, as much as they wish they could get these things done by their target dates, you know, those dates tend to slide. They're not always on time as they like it. And so I take some great optimism from that their plans can be a little bit like nudged, to use that term. But I think there's definitely things on the horizon that like do not look good. And I hate worrying, but I do. And I think that's just inevitable if you're breathing and you're able to think. So yeah, worry doesn't always help, but if you can think of just a few of the bad things that can happen so that you can take basic precautions. Right? So that's why I like to look into all of these weird things. And one of the phrases I really like from Thomas Sheridan is the psychic weather. No, he tries to gauge the psychic weather, see what's going on out there, and not get too caught up in it, not getting too caught up in the drama, but to be aware. And if anything, you just mentally prepare yourself for some shit coming. You don't know what. You know, maybe you're not ever fully prepared for what actually comes down. You know, but oh, cool! I got a pot. Nice. Thank you, CJ. So yeah, I think, you know, one thing I've learned from the last few months is that my job's really humbling, but I feel like I do something that, even if it's in itself not necessarily intellectually stimulating, or even if some might call it like mediocre type of job, I feel like it's funny because, you know, maybe that's one of the things that we're really losing out on when we outsource every single thing to somebody else, especially our thinking. When it comes to like going along with the crowd, having like a hive mind kind of thing. I think, yeah, that's sometimes the goal of these maybe highly type A personalities, the people that see themselves as important, as, you know, they have grand visions, they want to get stuff done. And so they, maybe they treat their employees like shit. Now, there's always that give and take of like people that take advantage of the system, the people that don't contribute to the system. And so that's why these bean counters, these numbers people, these get stuff done people, like I can understand to the extent that they want to make some rules for the sake of efficiency. It's not that I don't understand, like, why we've needed the rules and laws and such. But yeah, I just wonder if they are in themselves against actual nature. And so that's why it's always been so difficult for us to come to grips with like any system that works long term. If the only thing that works is actually the rise of an empire and the fall of the empire, and the constant polarity, I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with all that, but that's why I'm just trying to work this all out here. I'm really just trying to be honest and open about the struggle I have every day of thinking about, the pragmatic, getting through the day, and then the philosophical, and I really, I hope the moon is cheese too. I mean, they're going to be making that cheese off of the moon, and it kind of makes me sad because I've always had this like sense of wonder and awe at looking at the moon. It just takes my breath away still to this day. And yeah, it just really breaks my heart that we're just going to start bringing all these payloads on these private rockets with human trash. We're going to go mine it and junk it. And maybe, oh my God, maybe that's the whole plan, is like they have to leave the approximate same amount of weight of garbage for the amount of whatever they're going to extract, right? They have to they can't get the moon too heavy or too off balance. So they're going to take the rock and leave some trash behind. So for every wheel of cheese they steal from the moon, they have to leave a wheel of human trash, Just go look up like the payloads for these private missions. I mean, it's a lot of different scientific tools for measurement and blah blah blah. But yeah, it's an interesting trend, and I think I'd rather be at the very, very bottom on the fringes, observing all of that. I'd rather people think I'm an idiot than to be playing into those games, because I just don't see how any of those people are ever going to be satisfied. It's always going to be more, 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 more. And I don't know. I'm obviously very cynical of the stories that they're telling us. And I think there's a lot to unpack, but yeah, I really hope that I can at least get my kids to adulthood before they really start, trying to completely control us. Because I have a feeling this whole setup is for my grandkids. It's like my kids are the alpha generation, so they're the Artemis generation. They're calling it. That was the thing about the NASA launch that creeped me out. They were saying the Artemis generation. And so I think even the kids that are in school now, even the kids that are yet to start kindergarten now, the kids that have yet to be born, yeah, it's like my grandkids' generation is going to be the one that is fully immersed in what, maybe the Web3 is trying to sell in terms of I don't know, the public goods funding, there's a lot, and the Web3 space, so that's stuff I'm trying to dig into too. I really don't have a good grasp on it yet, but I think it's a very limited group of people that's actually talking about it. And while I think they're going to have some level of success in their ventures, because just for the sheer fact that people don't really know about it. I think that's been the story for generations now. So I just don't want us to get too worried that like these things are totally out of our control. I mean, those rich people, they're going to be playing with their economy, their tech, their levels of controlling humans, with psychology and everything. They've been doing that forever. So, if you come from the space where you think they're building the simulacrum, or we've already been in it, or they're just taking it to a new level, I'm taking some comfort in the fact that, we can still choose to look at the world in wonder. We can still choose to turn the shit off and, disconnect from the tech at times. So, yeah, even if we're on camera all the time, even if things seem really hopeless, I think we still can make choices, especially just looking into all the different things and being willing to change our minds. I mean, I don't listen to diverse points of view because I want to be able to accept all of them. I really just want to know, what is it that other people are thinking about? And what are they not thinking about? What are they not talking about? In what ways are their narratives kind of parodying some other narratives? Who's having battles with who? All this stuff is very interesting to me because the limited hangouts are everywhere, and that's what everybody's arguing about. So I want to make sure I'm not stuck in that space. I know I've been moving through a lot of things pretty quickly this year, and 2022 has proved to be just like whiplash of becoming even further away from, you know, that micro point of view, and I just keep stepping farther and farther and farther and farther back and getting the bigger picture. And I still don't have the grasp on it. I don't have the details, but I'm following the people that are really good with tracking details. And Allison, she puts all these points out there that I barely have time to keep up with. And I remember one of these water polo drills we used to do where we'd have a 5-gallon jug of water and we'd be in the pool treading water. We'd take the 5-gallon jug of water, fill it up with water, and then have to hold it over and dump out the water while we're treading. And I could barely do that. And my head would be going underwater and I'd be holding the thing up trying to get the water out of it and coming up for air, and it was hard for me, but I would do it, eventually. So yeah, I feel like it's fine to have my head under the water a little bit, as long as I can pop up for air every once in a while. So I'm going to give myself some grace for not knowing it all. I don't think we're doomed. I don't think any of this stuff is inevitable, but I believe they have such hubris as to believe it is inevitable. And so we just have to keep our wits about us and keep some humor along with all the doom and dread, because these people are so stupid. They're sending up their plaques and their cremated remains of their loved ones and their time capsules and their digitized footprints and their trinkets and their messages from children. I mean, they're literally sending garbage up into the moon. So yeah, it's like the adage, right? Garbage in, garbage out. I think these people just have such hubris. It's ridiculous. And so, yeah, as much as they're trying to use all this psychology crap against us, the thing is they don't understand the jokes, and they never will. So I think we have the upper hand there with our sense of humor. At least that's one of the things I'm banking on. And I'm also banking on, like, learning how to do the hard things, because the completion of the task is its own reward, So I will always be working for myself, even in the prison. Oh, dude. The whole thing was just like, okay, the thing about the launch that was killing me was this total progressive narrative about how when we finally land on the moon, we're going to have the first woman and the first person of color land on the moon. And they haven't even named the astronauts that are going yet, because it's like 2 years away. So, I mean, God, and I'm one of those that they probably consider a TERF, but I've always, like, for years I had, like, so much belief in the idea of like being able to be like an ally to anyone, but I just think that, yeah, the new nudging of everything is so weird that I I don't know. I just feel bad because it's like I've always wanted to be inclusive of everybody, but I'm come to the point where I have to start um, either keeping my mouth shut or, you know, just picking my battles, I guess, is really the thing. And I don't want to battle with people. That is not what I'm about. But at the same time, I don't want to be uh, trampled all over, you know? So I think that, yeah, it's going to be a really tough time to negotiate the next few years, especially with my kids, the ages they are right now. I have a good, 12 to 15 years of raising kids ahead of me. That's going to be really tough. And then beyond. But yeah, I'm grateful for that challenge. And I just want to teach them what I possibly can, where their food comes from, how to grow it. I'm glad my daughter has an interest in wanting to cook because she'll ask me if we can make a recipe. And then that really encourages me to make the extra effort and make sure we get the really fresh ingredients and make it from scratch. And so I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky I have my family that is nudging me in the ways that I think are important. Like the kids bugging us to have a family game night and play Mario Kart together for a while. I'm really, 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 really grateful for that. And like I was saying, if the future is like this kind of weird, two shitty choices, where you either play you have your work from home job, or you have to actually be in the field doing the more dangerous, risky things that like only the actually able-bodied can do. Then like I hope to push through any challenges I might have physically to be out in the field, because I cannot stand to be behind a computer. I will go crazy if I have to have one of those kind of gigs. So, yeah, I'm going to learn to do the hard physical jobs as best I can, learn how to fix up my house, watch YouTube videos on how to fix my basic plumbing stuff. Because, yeah, that's not what my husband's into, but he's going back to school. Hopefully he'll just be able to earn a decent wage and kind of give me some of the perspective of what the cybersecurity stuff is all about, because his friend got a pretty good paying job doing that. And I just think we have to be able to pay our freaking bills and feed our kids. And so I'm not going to be too nitpicky about where our money is coming from right now. Because every single industry is serving all this stuff already. It's already so tied. So the best thing we can do is just be looking into it all, paying attention, trying to keep, ourselves sane by laughing, spending time together, actually enjoying the company that we're with. Otherwise, whatever. Being alone is something I really value myself. So, anyways, I'm going to be digging into a lot more stuff, but yeah, I guess I'm pretty sad about this whole new deep space economy, but I'm just going to keep planting trees down here on Earth. I think they're going to be throwing everything at us, but the Earth is very resilient. Humans are very resilient. I think our mind can do a hell of a lot more than we give it credit for. So, yeah, I think most of us can just hang tough. Yeah, and we'll just keep laughing at all the crap they're trying to pull. But it seems like people from all different directions are coming to these similar conclusions. Not everybody sees every point, and to Alison McDowell's credit, she can connect so many different things. She's going out there foraging all of these little acorns and gathering them all up. And she's like, oh, look, and this is how this is connected. And this one, this one, this one, this one. Well, we need more people doing that because she can still only do so much. And we also need people that are looking at it from their own points of view, like from what captures their attention. Because we all have our bias that forms, what we've studied, what we've paid attention to. That kind of thing, just our varied interests really play a big role in it. And I argue, especially as we backtrack through, as individuals, we look at our decisions that we've made, and rather than having a whole laundry list of regrets and how we were so naive and how we may have worked for systems we don't actually really approve of. I think we need to have some understanding that, like, yeah, we're just a part of it. And knowing what we know now, how do we make efforts to move forward? I think that's a huge gift. And I think it's a huge gift to be able to understand, oh, well, I was duped, and I now know why I was duped. And once you get that awakening, it's great because you can't go back. You don't want to. The awakening is its own reward. And it's not difficult, to make a new decision, to shop at a different place. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I just really appreciate all the folks that are out there that are getting, that are helping me just to see the world. It's really great. And that's what I appreciate the most about living in this weird time, is just that, yeah, we still do have the physical, and yet we have such a great connection here online. And we can break through a lot of the bullshit to find the real folks out there. I think that is happening. And my husband just got to go to San Diego last month and meet up with some friends that he'd only been playing games with through Twitch for like a year. And so all those folks, they became his friends, and they all got to meet up finally. And so I think there's positive things that are potentially, coming out of all of this new stuff for sure. But it's just like with anything. It's just like with medical informed consent, or no taxation without representation. I want to make sure that it's not just people telling us or not telling us, just building a system for us without our consent, without our knowledge. I think that that's unacceptable, and I do not accept it. And I don't care how many different terms of service agreements there are that I've agreed to. They're not offering true informed consent with what they're doing. Their terms of service, they don't actually apply. So yeah, we need to do better with that kind of stuff. And we will, because our kids, they're going to be really smart, and they're going to know that this digital world isn't everything. They're going to be hungry for the real world. So yeah, we just need to do our best to kind of keep it there for them. And I see that. I really am optimistic about that. So I don't want to believe that it's all just inevitable. Their tricks and their plans to tag and track everything. I don't think it's possible. I think they have great hubris, and they are pretty fucking evil as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, they don't have as much power as they think they do. They really don't. So we're really tough, I believe. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight and pray that the moon cheese is the best cheese, and that us plebes can have a little bit. All right. Have a good night, CJ. Good night, everyone. Bye.